He could buy the world, but not his manhood, desired by women, yet cursed where it mattered most. Impotent, Tae Min lived with a secret no doctor could fix. Until one night, his personal assistant stumbled into his bed, drunk and beautiful. For the first time in years, he felt alive. But she vanished. Why did the woman who healed him run away, pregnant with triplets? Sit back, relax, and grab your popcorn. This story isn't just about power or pleasure. It's about a broken king, a forbidden knight, and the woman who ran far away. Saturday night glimmered like temptation itself. Seoul's skyline was alive, neon lights reflecting off wet asphalt, music spilling into the streets, laughter laced with alcohol and sin. And right in the middle of it all, Zara danced like the world owed her joy. Her body swayed to the rhythm, the crowd melting around her. Her black gown hugged every curve, her long braids sticking to her shoulders with sweat. She didn't care. For once, she wasn't the overworked assistant, the woman with endless deadlines and unread messages. She was just free. Her friends cheered her on, drinks in hand, the DJ switching to something loud and pulsing. Zara threw her head back, laughing, glowing, alive in a way she hadn't been in months. But beneath that laughter lived exhaustion. She had spent the entire week running behind her boss, Tae Min, a man feared by his enemies, admired by his subordinates, but utterly unreadable. People called him the Mafia King, quiet, ruthless, dangerously composed. And yet, for all his power, Zara had seen something different in him once, a shadow behind his gaze. Still, he was her boss. And she was just his assistant. She didn't belong in his world. Not even close. Her phone vibrated on the table beside her drink. She frowned, still half dancing, half humming, before reaching for it. The screen lit up. "Boss, send me the soft copy of the file now." Her brow furrowed. Even on a Saturday night, this man found a way to haunt her peace. She blinked at the message again, her vision blurry from the alcohol. Her lips curled into a lazy grin. In her drunken haze, she read it differently. "Bring the file to me now." That's what she thought she saw. "Ugh, seriously?" she muttered, stuffing her phone into her purse. "He can't do anything without me." Her friends laughed as she grabbed her clutch. "Zara, where are you going?" Her friends asked. "My boss wants a file. Apparently, the world will end if I don't deliver it personally." "You're drunk," one of her friends staggered. Grinning, "So what? I'll drop the file, say hi, and be back before the next song." But deep down, a strange excitement danced in her chest. Tae Min's mansion. She'd never been there, only heard rumors of how grand it was, how isolated, how cold. She stumbled out of the club, the night air kissing her flushed cheeks. Her cab arrived, headlights slicing through the drizzle. "Driver, where to?" Tae Min's mansion. "And hurry before I change my mind." Zara winked at him. The driver's brows shot up slightly. That name carried weight, but he didn't ask questions. The ride was silent except for Zara's quiet humming and the occasional hiccup. Outside, the streets thinned, the lights dimmed, until they turned into a long, winding road lined with trees. When the car finally stopped, she looked up at the massive gates in awe. Tall, black, guarded. It was less of a house and more of a fortress. "Driver, are you sure about this, miss? I really hope you don't wake up without a job tomorrow." Zara, smirking. "He's my boss. I'm his assistant. Totally normal." She paid the fare, clutching her bag as the gates slowly opened after security recognized her. The cab drove away. The silence was instant. All she could hear was her own breathing, the echo of her heels against the cobblestone driveway, and the occasional flutter of wind through the trees. The mansion loomed ahead, glass, steel, and stone, a world of cold perfection. And yet, tonight, it felt like it was watching her back. She hesitated for a second. Maybe she should have just emailed it. But she was already here. Already drunk. Already curious. To herself, he should increase my pay if he wants a doorstep delivery. She pushed the doorbell once. No answer. Twice. Still nothing. So she pressed the handle gently, and to her surprise, it opened. The warmth of the interior hit her immediately. Soft lights, expensive cologne, silence heavy enough to feel sacred. She stepped in carefully, closing the door behind her. And then she tripped. Her heels slipped against the marble, and she landed flat on her knees, letting out a muffled groan. Zara, grumbling, great classy entrance, Zara. Really classy. As she looked up, her heart stopped. At the end of the hallway, descending the stairs, was Tae Min. Dressed in a dark robe, his hair slightly tousled, eyes sharp even under dim light. He stopped halfway, his expression unreadable. Zara, what the hell are you doing here? Before I tell you what happened, subscribe to K-fairytales by Maria and comment where you're watching from. His voice was low, controlled, but slightly stunned. No one ever walked into his house uninvited. Zara, still on the floor. You said to bring the file. I said send the file. Zara, smiling weakly, oh, right. My bad. She tried to get up, stumbled again, and burst into a nervous laugh. I swear the stairs attacked me. Tae Min didn't respond. His eyes lingered, with desire, but confusion. That night, she didn't look like his usual employee. She looked different. Her skin glowed under the soft chandelier. Her perfume was intoxicating. This was the same woman who wore plain suits, tied her hair, and spoke with precision at work. Now she stood before him in a short dress, eyes glassy, lips red, skin glowing under his chandelier. Something in him stirred, something he hadn't felt in a long time. You're drunk. Zara, I'm motivated. Zara raised her voice. To break into my house? Zara, teasing, well, technically, you left the door open. His jaw clenched. She was impossible to reason with, even sober. Now she was chaos in heels. She took a wobbly step toward him, the file pressed to her chest. She handed him the file, and before she could leave, she fell against him. Their eyes locked. Something electric filled the silence. Zara, here. The precious file. Zara said. You could have sent it. Tae Min frowned at her. You could have said please. She frowned back at him. He exhaled, half irritated, half amused. But when she smiled up at him, her dimples showing, something strange happened in his chest. A flicker, a pulse, a dangerous warmth. The air between them thickened, her perfume wrapping around him like a whisper. Her lips curved mischievously, her gaze bold, unfiltered. And for the first time in years, Tae Min didn't know what to do with his hands. Zara swayed slightly as she handed him the file, her eyes locking with his. The silence between them stretched, long, heavy, magnetic. Somewhere in the back of her mind, she knew she should leave. But she didn't move. She just stood there, staring at him like she was seeing him for the first time. He looked nothing like the man she saw in the office. His robe hung open slightly at the chest, his hair untamed, his jaw shadowed with stubble. He looked human, and that was what made it dangerous. Tae Min, go home, Zara. Zara, smiling faintly, why? I came all the way here. You could at least offer me water. He almost laughed, almost. But then he remembered who he was, Tae Min, the man people feared, the man whose name carried weight in every room. Not a man who shared midnight drinks with his assistant. Tae Min, you're drunk. Zara. And you're lonely. He froze. She had said it like a whisper, like a truth she didn't mean to let slip. Her voice was soft, her eyes heavy, but those words sliced straight through him. Lonely. That word. He'd spent years pretending the mansion's silence didn't bother him, that the accident that had nearly killed him hadn't taken more than his strength, that the emptiness in his bed wasn't a reminder of what he had lost. But now, standing before this woman, smelling of perfume and trouble, he felt something dangerous stir in the ruins of his restraint. She walked past him slowly, brushing his arm as she did. It was accidental. Or maybe not. Zara. This place is huge. Cold, though. Tae Min. That's how I like it. Zara, turning back, smirking, of course you do. Her sarcasm lit something between them, sharp and alive. Tae Min followed her gaze. The soft lights reflected off the marble floor, the smell of her perfume mixing with a faint trace of his cologne. She moved toward the couch and sat down without asking. Tae Min, Zara.
Zara. What?
I'm just resting. He sighed, stepping closer. From this angle, she looked softer, smaller, her usual confidence replaced by that careless vulnerability only alcohol brings. But there was something more, something unspoken. Her eyes weren't just drunk. They were searching. Tae Min, quietly, you shouldn't be here. Zara. Then tell me to leave. He opened his mouth and stopped. He couldn't. He didn't know why. Her gaze lingered on his lips. And for the first time in years, Tae Min felt heat crawl up his spine. He turned away sharply. Tae Min, you don't know what you're doing. Zara, rising, then tell me. Her voice was soft. Her steps deliberate. She stopped just in front of him. He could feel her breath on his neck, smell the faint sweetness of her skin. Every muscle in his body screamed for control, but his heart had other plans. Zara, you think I'm scared of you, don't you? Tae Min, you should be. Zara, smiling. Then, why do you look like you're the one holding your breath? It broke him. He turned, fast, and she stumbled right into his chest. Their eyes met, inches apart. Her lips parted. His pulse raced. And then, she kissed him. A soft, uncertain kiss at first. Then a desperate one. Tae Min froze. His mind screamed to stop. This was wrong, reckless, but his body betrayed him. He kissed her back. The moment shattered everything between them. The rules, the boundaries, the restraint. Her hands slid up his chest, trembling. His fingers found her waist. She moved slowly on him, her seductive eyes locked on him. He was gone. It wasn't gentle. It was years of silence bursting open. Every nerve in him came alive. For years he'd felt nothing. Not with anyone. Not after the accident. Doctors had said he might never feel that kind of pleasure again. But with her, everything changed. Her name fell from his lips like a confession. Zara, hoarse, Tae Min. Tae Min, breathing slowly, heavily, don't stop. And she didn't. The night became a blur of skin, sighs, and emotions neither of them understood. It wasn't planned. It wasn't right. But it was real. For the first time in years, Tae Min felt alive. For the first time in her life, Zara felt wanted. Hours slipped by unnoticed, until the room fell silent again, filled only with the soft rhythm of two hearts beating in sync. When he finally drifted into sleep, she lay beside him, wide awake. Her mind spun with the weight of what just happened. She had crossed a line she could never uncross. The morning light spilled through the curtains like a confession.
Soft.
Relentless. Unforgiving. Zara stirred first. Her head ached faintly, the kind of ache that comes with too much wine and too many choices. Her lashes fluttered, and for a moment, she couldn't remember where she was. The sheets felt different. The air colder. Then she turned her head and froze. Tae Min lay beside her. Peaceful.
Bare.
The man who never smiled, never lingered, never looked twice at anyone, slept beside her like the world had stopped turning. Her throat tightened. Her heart thudded wildly. She sat up slowly, clutching the sheet to her chest, staring down at him like she was staring at a secret she wasn't supposed to see. His face was softer in sleep. The sharp edges dulled. His lips parted slightly, his breathing even. He didn't look like a mafia king. He looked human. Vulnerable. And that made it worse. Zara's fingers brushed against her own lips, still swollen, still tingling. It wasn't a dream. She had really done it. She had slept with her boss. The memory came rushing back, his hands, his voice, his whispered Zara. She swallowed hard, trying to push it away. What have I done? She glanced at the time. 6:47 a.m. If she was quick, she could leave before he woke up. Before the silence turned into shame. Carefully, she slipped out of bed. Her heels were near the couch, her purse on the table. She gathered them quietly, each movement a prayer not to wake him. But then, her eyes caught the faint scar that ran along his ribs. She paused. She'd heard rumors that years ago he'd been shot during a deal gone wrong, that the injury had taken something from him, something no doctor could give back. Maybe that was why he always looked so distant, so untouched by the world. Yet last night, he wasn't distant at all. He was real.
And warm. And alive.
She wanted to believe it meant something, but she knew better. Men like Tae Min didn't fall for women like her. She took one last look at him, sleeping so quietly, and whispered under her breath, "Goodbye, boss." Then she slipped out of the room. The hallway felt endless. By the time she reached the door, the morning wind hit her face, cold, sobering, cruel.
Her phone buzzed in her bag.
A reminder of her meeting at work in 3 hours. She let out a shaky laugh. Life went on, apparently, even after you lost your mind. As she walked down the driveway, she promised herself one thing. She'd bury that night deep where no one could ever find it. But miles away, in that silent mansion, Tae Min stirred. His hand brushed the empty side of the bed. His eyes opened slowly. The room was quiet, too quiet. She was gone. For a long time, he just lay there, staring at the ceiling, replaying the night in his mind. Her laughter, her touch, her name on his lips. And something inside him twisted. Not guilt, not regret, something else. Something he hadn't felt in years. Desire. But not the kind born of lust. The kind that lingers when the body is satisfied, but the heart isn't. He sat up, running a hand through his hair. The truth hit him hard, brutally honest, impossible to ignore. For years, he'd lived like a ghost of himself, numb to everything, broken in ways no one could see. But one drunken woman, his assistant of all people, had made him feel alive again. And now that he'd tasted that life, that warmth, he couldn't let it go. She thinks she can just walk away? He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that didn't reach the eyes. We'll see about that, Zara. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Zara stepped out, head high, heels clicking against the polished marble like a heartbeat she was trying to steady. It was Monday. 3 days since that night. 3 days since she had made the worst, or maybe the best, mistake of her life. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched her tablet. She told herself she could do this. Just walk in, act normal, pretend nothing happened. The secretary greeted her with a polite nod. Zara smiled back, too wide, too practiced. Inside, her stomach twisted. Then the door opened. Tae Min was already there, seated behind his desk, every inch the man she knew. Immaculate suit, cold expression, eyes that saw too much. Only this time, those eyes found her instantly, and didn't look away. For a moment, time stilled. She swallowed hard. "Good morning, sir." His voice was quiet, too calm. "You're late." She blinked. "By 1 minute." "I noticed." The words carried a weight she didn't understand, or maybe she did, and that was the problem. Zara sat, pretending to review her notes. Her heart pounded. She could feel his gaze burning against her skin. He wasn't even trying to hide it. He had been trying not to think about her all weekend. He'd buried himself in work, in silence, in the familiar discipline of control. But every time he closed his eyes, she was there, her lips, her breath, the sound of her whispering his name. He'd spent years untouched by desire. Until her. And now he couldn't stop. He studied her from across the room, the way she tucked a stray curl behind her ear, the faint shimmer on her lips, the curve of her neck. It infuriated him, the way she could walk in here, looking calm, while his entire body remembered her. "Zara," he said suddenly. She looked up, startled. "Yes, sir? Cancel my afternoon meetings." She frowned. "All of them?"
All.
"Any reason why?" "You'll find out soon enough." Her pulse skipped. He looked dead serious. She quickly looked back at her screen, pretending to type. Hours passed like slow thunder. By 6 p.m., most of the staff had left. The building was quiet. Zara gathered her things, eager to escape before anything else could happen. But before she could stand, his voice came again.
Dinner.
With me. She froze. Dinner?
Yes.
Don't make me repeat myself. Zara turned slowly. Sir, I have plans. He leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing slightly. Cancel them. It wasn't a request. Her lips parted to argue, but something in his gaze stopped her. There it was again, that intensity, that pull she couldn't explain. Against her better judgment, she nodded. All right.
Dinner.
They drove in silence. His car smelled like leather and control, expensive and suffocating. Zara stared out the window, trying not to think about the last time she'd been alone with him. Her heart betrayed her, beating faster with every mile. At the restaurant, the staff greeted him by name.
Of course they did.
He owned half the city. They sat in a private corner. Candlelight flickered between them, soft and golden. She looked radiant under it, hair brushed to one side, lips tinted pink. He watched her every movement, every breath. Tae Min, you're quiet. Zara, maybe I'm scared. Tae Min, of me. Zara, smirking, of what I might say. He smiled, the first real smile she'd seen since she met him. It did something strange to her heart. Tae Min, say it then. You're different. Tae Min, you mean broken. Zara, no. I mean real. And that's scarier. Her honesty hit him like a shot.
No one ever spoke to him that way.
No one ever dared. For the rest of dinner, their conversation flowed like fire and silk, teasing, daring, warm. She was sassy and sharp. He was quiet but magnetic. The more they talked, the more the air thickened with something neither of them could name. By the time they left, the city lights shimmered around them, and something dangerous lingered between their steps. Back at his mansion, he offered her a drink. She refused. This felt like a dream to her. She had a crush on him the first day she met him at work, but he never looked at her for half a second. So what was happening now, she wondered. Zara, I don't want to make the same mistake twice. He stepped closer. Tae Min, you think it was a mistake? Zara, softly, wasn't it? He didn't answer. He just reached out, tracing her cheek with his thumb. Tae Min, you woke something in me that I thought was dead. Her breath hitched. Zara, you shouldn't say things like that. Tae Min, and yet I mean them. Their eyes locked. And this time, she didn't resist. They fell into each other again, not from drunken impulse, but from a craving neither could bury anymore. This time it was slower, deeper, filled with the dangerous tenderness of two people who knew they were falling into something they couldn't control. By the end of that night, Zara lay in his arms, smiling quietly to herself. For the first time, it didn't feel wrong. It felt inevitable. She didn't know this love would soon cost her everything. And he didn't know it would become his only redemption. Zara woke to sunlight again, the kind that slipped gently across his chest, warming everything it touched. Tae Min was still asleep beside her, his arm draped lazily over her waist. For a while, she just watched him, the calm rise and fall of his chest, the way his features softened when the world wasn't watching. She smiled. It had been a month since that night in the club. A month of stolen evenings, whispered words, laughter, and things she swore she'd never feel again. The man everyone feared had become the one she couldn't stop thinking about. He wasn't just her boss anymore. He was the man who kissed her forehead after making love. The man who looked at her like she was the only thing in the room that mattered. She should have known it wouldn't last forever. It started with nausea, then the cravings, then the missed period. Zara sat on her bathroom floor, staring at the pregnancy test like it might change if she just blinked long enough. 2 lines. Clear. Bold. Unmistakable. She was pregnant. Her hands flew to her mouth as tears rushed to her eyes. Half shock, half joy. She laughed through her tears, shaking her head. You've got to be kidding me, she whispered, then placed a hand on her stomach. 3 weeks ago that night. The memory flooded her, his voice, his touch, the way he whispered her name like it meant something. Maybe this was fate. Maybe it was a miracle. And maybe, just maybe, he'd be happy. By the time she reached the Mafetti Tower, her heart was bursting with nervous excitement. Her heels clicked fast against the marble floor, and she kept one hand pressed over her belly like it already carried something precious. She rehearsed her words silently. Tae Min, I'm pregnant. Tae Min, we're having a baby. Tae Min, you're going to be a father. But none of them felt right, because she wasn't sure how to tell a man like him something so fragile. Still, she smiled to herself as she stepped into his office wing. She'd never seen him that morning. His doors were closed, his guards unusually quiet. She raised her hand to knock, then paused. Voices.
Low.
Serious. She hesitated, her heart fluttering. He was on the phone. She shouldn't interrupt. But then she heard her name. And everything stopped. Tae Min over the phone, no.
She's not my type.
You know that.
Pause.
It was supposed to be nothing. Just a way to feel something again. Pause. Yes, she's good at her job.
But don't worry.
I'll end it soon. Zara froze. Her entire world went silent, the kind of silence that swallows you whole. Her fingers trembled. Her chest felt hollow. She took a step back, but her heels scraped against the floor, just enough for him to hear. The sound was soft, but it might as well have been thunder. Leon turned toward the door immediately. Their eyes met. And in that moment, everything inside her broke. Her trembling lips parted, but no words came. The look on her face, shock, betrayal, heartbreak, hit him harder than any bullet ever could. The elevator doors closed just as he reached the hallway. She stood inside, arms wrapped around herself, eyes wet but burning with silent fury. He called her name once, twice, but she didn't turn. She couldn't. As the elevator descended, her vision blurred with tears. The world outside spun, but all she could hear were his words echoing in her mind. She's not my type. It was supposed to be nothing. I'll end it soon. The man she loved. The man she trusted. The man she was carrying 3 children for. Her stomach twisted. She pressed a trembling hand against it, whispering to herself, "It's okay, babies. We don't need him. We don't." That night, she packed everything. Have you ever felt this? Comment your experience and where you're watching from. Her apartment looked small, suffocating, filled with memories she could no longer stand to see. She booked the first flight out of Korea. No destination in mind, just away. Away from him. Away from the lie. She didn't leave a note. She didn't take his calls. She vanished. And for the first time in Tae Min's life, he felt powerless. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. Tae Min's life spiraled. At first, he missed the comfort of her touch, but soon, he realized he missed her. He searched everywhere. He paid detectives, gang informants, even offered millions for anyone who could find her. He searched everywhere, called every contact, paid every informant, tore through cities like a man possessed. But she was gone, like she'd never existed. At first it was anger, then confusion, then emptiness. He tried to forget her. But how do you forget the one person who made you feel human again? So he waited. 1 year.
2.
3. Until the day she returned to Korea, with 3 children who had his eyes. 3 years had passed since Zara vanished like smoke from Tae Min's life. 3 years of chasing her shadow, of replaying her laughter in empty rooms. He had built empires, destroyed rivals, but he could never destroy the hollow she left behind. Then fate chose the cruelest way to bring her back. The hospital lights hummed softly, cold and sterile against the night. Tae Min had come for a routine visit. One of his men had been injured in a shootout. His mind was far away, buried in business and pain until he saw her.
Thara.
Standing by the nurse's counter, hair damp from the rain, clutching a small child's jacket in her arms. Her skin glowed under the harsh white light, her face more mature, her eyes deeper. The kind of beauty born from heartbreak and survival. For a second, his world stopped breathing. He didn't believe it was her until she turned. And when their eyes met, time cracked open. Tae Min froze. Memories slammed into him. Her voice, her touch, the warmth of her body that night he never forgot. He took a slow step forward, his heart thundering. Her lips parted in shock, and for the briefest moment, emotion flickered in her eyes before she masked it with coldness. His voice came out rough, almost a whisper. "You left me breathing but dead." Zara's jaw tightened. She stared at him, the storm of years flashing behind her eyes, and answered quietly. "You killed me first." The words hit him like a blade. He blinked, confused, not angry, not defensive, just stunned. He hadn't expected hatred. He hadn't expected pain. He had only imagined relief, or maybe joy. But this was something else. He swallowed, taking another step closer. "Zara," he breathed, almost afraid to speak her name. Before he could continue, a soft voice interrupted. "Mommy, I'm ready." A little girl appeared from behind Zara, holding a small teddy bear. Big brown eyes, round cheeks, innocent, beautiful. She couldn't be more than 3. Tae Min's gaze locked on her, his breath catching. Something about the child's eyes pulled at him, a strange recognition he couldn't explain. But before his thoughts could form words, Zara reached for the girl's hand and turned sharply. "Good night, Mr. Tae Min," she said flatly. "As far as I remember, we no longer have anything to say to each other." She walked past him, her heels clicking against the polished floor, the child's tiny footsteps following beside her. She always wondered why she left to suffer. Maybe her children would have lived the best life where they had everything they wanted and not a struggling mom like her who could just provide their basic needs. But she told herself she would always leave if anyone made her feel less. If you do the same thing, subscribe to K-fairytales by Maria and tell me where you're watching from. For a moment, Tae Min stood frozen, watching her retreating figure. Something inside him stirred, confusion, longing, an ache he hadn't felt in years. Then, he followed her out into the rain. The night air was cold and heavy with thunder. Zara pulled her coat tighter, but he caught up before she reached her car. "Zara, wait." She stopped, not turning around. The rain poured harder, beating between them. He stepped closer, his voice low but desperate. "Why did you leave like that? No message, no goodbye, nothing. You just vanished." She turned slowly, her eyes hard, her voice trembling. "Because disappearing was the only way to survive you." He frowned, baffled. "Survive me? You wouldn't understand since I was just a tool to you." He took another step, his hand half raised as if to reach for her. She moved back instantly. "Don't," she whispered. "Just don't." Her daughter tugged her sleeve. "Mommy, are we going home?" Zara nodded quickly, forcing a smile. "Yes, baby. We're going." She turned away, her final words slicing through the rain. And then she was gone, slipping into the night, the child's tiny hand in hers. Tae Min stood in the downpour, frozen in disbelief. Every muscle in his body screamed to chase her, to demand answers, to ask who that little girl was. But something told him to wait. Because for the first time in 3 years, his heart was alive again, beating for the woman who hated him. And he couldn't shake the feeling of the child with her eyes. Carried a piece of him, too. The cab ride home was quiet. Zara stared out the window, watching rain trace silver rivers down the glass. Her daughter slept against her arm, tiny fingers clutching the hem of her dress. When they reached her apartment, she slipped inside quietly, where laughter instantly greeted her. "Mommy." 2 little boys came running from the living room, identical in every way except for the slight dimple on one cheek. Their nanny barely managed to stop them from knocking over the snack tray. Zara knelt down, opening her arms wide. "My babies." They tackled her in a hug, all giggles and warmth. She kissed their foreheads one by one. "Why do you smell like rain, Mommy?" one asked, wrinkling his nose. "Because the sky cried when it saw how messy your room was," she teased. The boys gasped in mock horror. "It's not messy. It's creative chaos." Their sister blinked sleepily. "Mommy met a mean man today." Zara froze for half a second before smiling. "A mean man who drives too fast," she said softly. But don't worry, Mommy's okay. The oldest boy puffed his chest. If that man makes you sad again, I'll punch him. Zara laughed, hugging him tighter.
Deal.
But only after homework, okay? The children groaned in perfect harmony. For the first time that night, Zara's heart felt light again. 2 days later, Tae Min sat behind his desk, restless. He had replayed their hospital encounter more times than he cared to admit. Her voice, those words, "You killed me first." He couldn't let it go. Find everything about her, he ordered his men. Where she lives, where she works, who she's with. I want every detail. By evening, his researcher returned. Sir, she came back to Korea a month ago. She's working at a design firm in Gangnam. Lives in Mapo district. The man hesitated before adding. She returned with triplets. Tae Min's heartbeat stumbled. Triplets? Yes, sir. He dismissed the team and leaned back, disbelief clouding his face.
Triplets.
A child at the hospital, 2 more somewhere else. Why was she angry? Why had she vanished? Who was their father? The questions tore at him until he found himself standing outside her apartment the next morning. Zara opened the door halfway, her expression instantly cold. What are you doing here? Can we talk?
Tae Min asked softly. Please.
There's nothing to talk about. He hesitated, eyes darting past her shoulder. Inside, 3 tiny heads peeked from behind the couch, curious eyes identical to his own. It hit him like a silent explosion. The same almond shape, the same dark brown color. Even the tiny mole beneath the left eye, his exact mark. He whispered, barely audible, "They'll look like me." Zara stiffened, ready to slam the door, but he placed his palm against it gently. Zara, please. Just 5 minutes. She hesitated, torn between fury and heartbreak. Finally, she stepped outside, closing the door behind her. Why are you here, Tae Min? To call me another mistake? He shook his head quickly. I don't even know what I did. All I know is that you disappeared, and my life stopped making sense. Her laugh was bitter, trembling. You want to know why I left? He nodded. Her eyes filled with tears she refused to blink away. I left because I heard you. The day I wanted to announce to you that I was pregnant, that night in your office. You told someone I was never your type, that I was just there to satisfy your pleasure. I was in the hallway, Tae Min. I heard every word. He froze, color draining from his face. His mind flashed back to that conversation, his voice, careless, trying to shut up a nosy friend who mocked him for sleeping with his assistant. Those words had destroyed her. He stepped closer, rain beginning to fall again. Zara, his voice cracked. There's no excuse. None. She turned away, arms folded tightly. He sank to his knees right there in the hallway. I was a fool, he said, voice shaking. A proud, stupid fool. I said those words to protect my ego, not knowing I was killing the only woman who ever made me feel human. Zara's throat tightened. Don't do this. I've tried to forget you. I've tried to live. But every night I close my eyes, you're there. You, and that night. The only time I felt alive. Tears streamed down her face. You broke me, Tae Min. He looked up at her, eyes glassy. Then let me spend the rest of my life fixing what I broke. Behind her, the door creaked open and 3 little voices called out together. Mommy, who's that man? Zara turned toward them, torn between anger and something dangerously close to love. Tae Min followed her gaze, a trembling smile forming. The reason I'm still breathing, he whispered. And for the first time, Zara didn't know whether to slam the door or let her heart listen. Chapter 9. The Return of Love. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, Tae Min began to prove what words never could. He didn't beg anymore. He didn't argue. He simply showed up, quietly, consistently. When Zara's car broke down, it was fixed before morning. When her company faced a client scandal, the issue vanished overnight. When her children needed a new school, an anonymous sponsor paid every bill. She knew it was him. He never said it, but she could feel his presence, steady, protective, remorseful. One evening, she stepped out of work late and found him waiting across the street. He didn't speak, just offered her his umbrella. For a moment, she almost smiled. Almost. Then came the night everything changed. Zara's new design firm was in chaos, an electrical fault, fire alarms blaring, smoke filling the building. She had stayed late, finishing a presentation, when the power shorted. She tried to escape, but the exit was blocked by debris. Panic clawed her chest. Through the chaos, a voice roared her name. Deep, terrified, familiar. Zara. She turned, and there he was.
Tae Min.
His suit jacket soaked, face streaked with ash, pushing through the flames like a madman. He pulled her close, shielding her with his own body as he forced a window open. The heat was unbearable, but his grip was unshakable. "Hold on to me," he said, voice hoarse.
She did.
By the time firefighters arrived, they were outside, bruised, coughing, trembling. He didn't let go until he felt her breathe again. For the first time in years, Zara saw it in his eyes. Not pride, not guilt, just love.
Raw.
Uncomplicated.
Real.
She looked up at him, through tears. "You really changed." He brushed soot from her cheek, his voice quiet but sure.
No.
"I just became the man you deserved from the start." Her lips trembled. Then she smiled, small, fragile, but real. She leaned in, and their lips met. Soft, forgiving, full of everything they had lost and found again. Days later, the triplets ran into the garden laughing. One climbed up Tae Min's leg, another tugged his tie, the third handed him a flower. Zara stood by the window, watching the man she once feared to love become the father her children adored. When he turned and caught her watching, she smiled and stepped into the sunlight beside him. Rain began to fall, soft, silver drops glistening through the morning light. Tae Min lifted one of the kids in his arms as Zara leaned into his shoulder. They stood there together, a picture of what healing looked like when love refused to die. They say love doesn't return the same way it left, but sometimes it comes back better. The end.